The sky was dark. Thick clouds hung over the old scrapyard. Rain had just stopped. Water dripped from broken metal and old machines. The place smelled of oil and rust. Jake was working late again. He was a quiet man, a mechanic, living alone at the edge of the city. He fixed broken machines and sold spare parts. People called him the junkman, but he didn't care. He liked peace. He didn't like crowds or questions. That night, something strange happened. Jake was carrying a heavy toolbox when he heard a sound, a soft clink, then another. Something was moving behind a pile of metal. He stopped. "Is someone there?" He called out, voice calm but ready. No answer. He slowly walked toward the sound. His boots splashed in the wet mud. He grabbed a flashlight and turned it on. The light moved across rusted parts and broken robot arms. Then he saw it. Small hand. Thin. Not human. Jake froze. Behind a metal sheet, curled up and shaking, was a girl. But she was not a normal girl. Her skin was pale blue. Her eyes were large and silver, like polished glass. Her hair was long and black, messy and full of dust. She looked young, maybe 14 or 15 in human years. Her clothes were torn, and her arm had strange lines glowing under the skin. A small machine, half broken, was attached to her neck. She looked at Jake, terrified. He raised his hand slowly, showing her he meant no harm. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly. The girl didn't speak. She didn't move. Jake sighed. He looked around. No one else was there. No ship, no crash, just her. He knelt down. "You're alone, aren't you?" The girl nodded, very slowly. Jake looked at the sky. "Damn it," he whispered. He didn't want trouble, but he couldn't leave her here. She would die in the cold. After a long pause, he stood up and reached out a hand. "Come with me." She looked at his hand. Her fingers trembled. But then, she reached out and took it. Jake brought her into his workshop. It was warm inside, filled with tools, wires, and half-finished machines. He gave her a blanket and a hot drink. She didn't drink it. She just held the cup and stared at the walls. Jake sat down across from her. "What's your name?" he asked. She didn't reply. "Can you speak English?" She shook her head just a little. Jake scratched his beard. "Great. No name, no language. No ID." He looked at the glowing lines on her arm. "And definitely not human." He stood up and began working on a small scanner. He kept glancing at her. She watched him carefully, like a cat in a corner. He turned on the scanner and pointed it toward her. It beeped. "Alien tech," he muttered. "Some kind of bio-chip. This thing on your neck, what is it?" The girl touched it gently. She looked scared. "It hurts?" he asked. She nodded. Jake sighed again. "Okay, I'll try to remove it tomorrow." Later that night, Jake gave her an old bed in the back room. She lay down slowly, eyes still wide open. He turned off the light but left the door open. He didn't sleep well. His mind was racing. Where did she come from? Was she from one of the hidden colonies? An experiment? A lost ship? And why did he feel like someone or something was watching? The next morning, Jake found her sitting in the workshop. She had drawn strange symbols on the table using pieces of wire. He didn't understand them. But she looked serious. He made her some eggs. She ate slowly, watching his every move. "Still not talking, huh?" She looked at him and pointed to herself. Then she drew a circle in the air and said, very softly, "Z." "Z?" Jake repeated. She nodded. "Well, nice to meet you, Z." That day, Jake gave her simple jobs: sorting screws, cleaning, tools. She did everything fast. Too fast. She watched machines like she already knew them. She fixed a small drone that Jake had given up on. She didn't even use tools, just her hands and some strange energy from her fingers. Jake stared. "You're not just some lost girl, are you?" Z didn't reply. That night after she went to bed, Jake stepped outside to smoke. He looked up at the stars. Then he noticed something. A red light, far off in the sky. It blinked once, then disappeared. Jake's eyes narrowed. Someone was watching. Asterisk. The dream was not human. Z stood alone in a field of fire. Tall towers burned in the distance. Giant ships fell from the sky like dying birds. Voices shouted in a strange language. A woman cried her name, but when Z looked around, she saw nothing. Just smoke. Then she woke up gasping. Jake was already working in the shop. Sparks flew from his welding torch. He wore his old coat and oil-stained gloves. The music was loud old earth rock, something with a fast beat. Z walked in. Her steps quiet. She had slept in a clean blanket for the first time. Her skin looked better. The strange glowing lines on her arm were fading. Jake looked up and smiled. Morning, Z. She didn't speak, but she picked up a wrench and started helping. She handed him the right tool without asking. Jake paused. You know this? Z just nodded. He scratched his head. You're learning too fast. That's not normal. She tilted her head and smiled a little. Jake shook his head. Okay, alien girl. Time to test your brain. He brought her a small robot. It was broken. Missing parts, burned circuits. One of his clients had called it junk. Z studied it, quiet, focused. She didn't use a manual. She didn't ask questions. In 10 minutes, she had it working again. Jake's mouth fell open. You've got to be kidding me. The robot rolled around the floor and beeped happily. Z clapped softly, smiling. Jake sat down hard. You remember things, don't you? Your past? Z's smile faded. She shook her head slowly. Then she touched her temple and whispered, broken. Jake understood. She had memory loss. But her skills, her instincts were still. Later that day, Jake tried to teach her more words. He wrote on a board, food tool home dangers. He repeated them all, clearly. Her voice was soft but steady. Good, Jake said. Now, this. He wrote, safe. Z looked at the word. Then at Jake. She nodded. Jake didn't say anything, but inside, he felt something warm. He had never had a family, never even had a pet. But Z, she was becoming part of his world, and maybe he was becoming hers. But peace doesn't last forever. That night, while Z slept, Jake heard a sound outside. He grabbed his flashlight and stepped into the yard. Wind howled across the scrap piles. Then he saw it, a strange shape moving across the top of a junk tower. Metal boots. A red eye blinking. Jake ducked behind a crate. He peered through a crack. It was a drone. But not one of his. It was scanning the area. Quiet, careful. Jake's blood turned cold. Someone was looking for Z. He went back inside and quietly locked every door. The next morning, Z was already awake. She was building something out of junk wires and old chips. Jake watched her. What are you making? He asked. Z didn't answer. She turned it on. The small device blinked blue, then let out a soft hum. Jake scanned it. A signal jammer? Z pointed to her neck where the chip used to glow. No find, she said slowly. Jake stared. You're jamming the tracker. So they can't follow you. Z nodded. Jake sat down and laughed once. You're full of surprises. They spent the day working together. Jake fixed an engine. Z lifted it with her hands, not touching it. It floated for a second, then dropped softly. Jake's eyes widened. Telekinesis? Z looked confused. You moved it. With your mind. She just shrugged. Jake leaned forward. Z, what are you? She looked down, then whispered, not weapon. Jake was silent, but in the back of his mind, a dark thought crept in. Someone built her, or trained her for war. That evening, while she ate quietly, Jake went to his old storage room. He opened a rusted locker and took out an old case. Inside was a gun, a real one. Heavy black, loaded. He hadn't used it in years, but now He might need it. He returned to the workshop and turned off the lights. Outside, the wind had stopped. The silence was thick, too thick. He looked at Z. She had fallen asleep on the floor, hugging a pillow, wires still wrapped around her fingers. Sat nearby, keeping watch, but high above in orbit, a ship turned its scanner toward Earth. Its screen showed one red dot blinking in a tiny junkyard. A voice spoke in a deep alien tongue. Target confirmed. Prepare the extraction. Asterisk. It started with silence. To silent. No wind. No engine sounds. No birds. Even the machines in the workshop had stopped humming. Jake noticed it first. He was fixing an old power core when the lights blinked once. Then, died. Power's out, he muttered. But deep down, he knew this wasn't normal. He turned to check the breaker box. That's when he saw Z. She was standing still. Her eyes were glowing silver, her body frozen, like she was listening to something. Far away, Jake walked over. Z, what's wrong? She didn't blink, didn't speak. Then she whispered one word, coming. 20 minutes earlier, high in Earth's orbit, a sleek black alien ship slid through the clouds without sound. Its crew wore armor like shadows. No faces, just red eyes. Their leader stood tall, staring at a glowing screen. Z's face blinked. On it, a green map marked her exact location. Recover the unit, the leader said coldly. No mistakes. Back on Earth, Jake grabbed his scanner and ran outside. He climbed a scrap pile and looked through his scope. The sky was clear, but something felt wrong. He turned the scanner on. A red dot appeared just above the yard. Moving fast. Double quotes. No. No. He jumped down and ran back inside. Z, we have to move. Now. She looked at him, confused. They found you, he said. Whoever they are, they're close. Z nodded slowly. Bad people. Jake grabbed a bag with tools, wires, and some food. Come on, we're going to the ship. Jake's old cargo ship had been rusting behind the workshop for years. It hadn't flown in forever, but Z had been working on it in secret. Fixing wires, rebuilding the engine. They ran to it. Jake jumped into the cockpit. Let's see if this bird can still fly. Z sat next to him. I help. As Jake powered up the system, outside, something heavy dropped into the yard. Boom. A dark figure landed, metal armor, glowing weapons. Two more followed. Red lasers swept the junk, scanning. They were here. Jake yelled, hang on! The ship roared to life. Z slammed her hand on a control panel. Lights came on. Engines glowed. Blue. The ship lifted into the air barely. Laser shots flew past them, hitting scrap piles and starting fires. Jake cursed. They're shooting at us. Z turned in her seat. Her hands glowed with energy. She aimed them at the attackers, and a bright shockwave blasted out. The soldiers flew back. Jake looked at her in shock. What the hell was that? Z just whispered, protect. The ship shot upward. It shook, creaked, and barely cleared the scrap walls. Behind them, the soldiers climbed into their own small fighters. They're following. Jake shouted. Z pointed ahead. Asteroids, hide. Jake checked the screen. There's a belt nearby. Risky, but okay. They entered space. The enemy ships came close fast and silent. Jake flew hard into the asteroid field. Rocks the size of cars spun everywhere. The enemy ships fired. One blast hit the engine room. Alarms screamed. Engines damaged, Jake yelled. We're losing power. Z closed her eyes. Her fingers danced over a panel. She spoke words in a strange language, and the damaged engine sparked back to life. Jake couldn't believe it. What are you? She looked at him. I was made, not born. After a rough flight, they reached a small abandoned moon station. It was dark, cracked, forgotten. Jake landed hard. The ship groaned but held together. He powered down. Wheel. Fix it here. Z stepped out and touched the dusty floor. Her eyes widened. She walked to a wall and wiped away thick dirt, revealing a strange symbol. The same symbol on her arm. Jake watched quietly. This place, he said. You know it? Z nodded. Home. Before war. Jake's face hardened. There was a war? What happened to your people? Z closed her eyes. They made me ... As weapon. But I escaped. Jake sat down beside her. You're not a weapon now. Not here. Not with me. Z looked at him, confused. Why help me? She asked. Jake thought for a moment. Then he said, because no one helped me when I was alone. I won't make that mistake again. That night, while Z slept inside the moon base, Jake worked on the ship. He repaired what he could. He also placed old security drones around the area. He knew they would come again, and this time, they might not miss. He looked up at the stars. Wherever you came from, Z. They want you back, but they'll have to go through me first. Up. Above. The enemy ship hovered in orbit. The leader stared at the moon base glowing faintly on his screen. Prepare ground team. And activate the control signal. Inside the ship, a dark machine powered on. It pulsed with red light and sent out a call that only one person could hear. Down below, sleeping peacefully, Z twitched. Then her eyes snapped open. Glowing red. Z was not breathing. Her body was still, but her eyes were wide open, glowing red. Jake stood in the doorway, frozen. He had just walked in to check on her. One moment she was sleeping. The next she was sitting straight up, staring through him. Like he wasn't even there. Z? He whispered. She didn't blink. Z, it's me, Jake. Her mouth opened slowly. But the voice that came out was not hers. Unit Z41, return. To command. Obey. Return. Jake took a step back. What the hell? Z rose from the floor. Her hands sparked with strange energy. She was walking toward him, but not as Z, not as the girl he rescued. She looked like a machine under control. Jake reached into his belt and pulled out a small shock device. He didn't want to hurt her, but she wasn't herself, he whispered. I'm sorry, kid. He pressed the button. A soft electric pulse hit her chest. Her body jolted and collapsed. The red glow faded. She was breathing again. 20 minutes later, Z woke up. She was lying on a bench inside the moon base. Jake sat beside her, holding his head in his hands. When he saw her eyes normal again, he sighed in relief. You came back, he said quietly. Z looked confused. I don't remember, Jake nodded. Someone tried to control you. Took over your mind. Z sat up slowly. It's a command code. Hidden inside me. Jake clenched his fists. They think they still own you. Z looked at him. Her voice cracked. I'm scared, Jake. Jake didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, good. Being scared means you're alive. And if you're alive, we can fight back. Outside, the moon was silent, but not for long. In orbit, the enemy ship launched small black pods. They fell fast, like meteors. Each one carried a hunter. They were coming. Inside the base, Jake and Z worked fast. He repaired what he could on the old ship. Z reprogrammed the control systems, changing codes, blocking signals. Jake watched her hands move with skill and focus. You remember more than you say, he said. Z nodded. Some things are coming back. I was trained to escape. To survive. Jake gave a half smile. That part's working. Suddenly, one of the old drones Jake set up sent an alert. Intruders detected. 400 meters. Jake looked at Z. They're here. They grabbed their gear and ran to the ship. As they started up the engines, an explosion shook the outer wall. Jake shouted, hurry! Z touched the control panel. Her energy flowed into it. The ship began to rise, sparks flying from the floor. Outside, dark soldiers ran through the dust, laser weapons ready. Z raised her hand, and a force field shot out. blocking the entrance. The attackers fired, but their shots bounced off the glowing wall. Jake yelled, "That won't hold forever." Z turned to him. "I can fly, you fight." Jake stared. "Wait, you can fly this thing?" Z smiled. "I watched you, I learned." The ship blasted into the sky, dodging more fire from the ground. Jake manned the turret. He fired at the black pods now rising to follow them. Z twisted the controls. The ship spun and weaved through laser blasts and falling rocks. "Where are we going?" she asked. Jake shouted, "There's a hidden spaceport on Mars. I know a guy, old smuggler. We'll lose them there." Z nodded. But as they hit orbit, a shadow loomed above. The enemy mothership blocked the stars. Jake's voice dropped. "That's not a fighter. That's a damn fortress." The ship opened fire. Z pushed the engines to full. The ship shook. "We can't outrun it," Jake yelled. "We'll burn out." Z closed her eyes. She placed her hand on the panel again and began whispering words in her old language. The ship glowed with strange light. Then, something strange happened. A portal opened in front of them, swirling blue and white, like a hole in space. Jake stared. "What is that?" Z opened her eyes. "A jump gate. Hidden tech. In my mind." Jake was stunned. "You built a portal?" Z smiled faintly. "No, I remembered it." They flew through the portal just as a blast from the mothership hit the edge of their engine. The light swallowed them. Silence. Darkness. Then a calm starfield appeared around them. They had jumped to another part of space. Jake looked around, stunned. "You saved us." Z looked tired. Her nose was bleeding, her hands shaking. "That took energy," she said quietly. Jake helped her sit down. "You rest. I'll get us to the Mars port." Z looked up at him. Her voice was soft. "Jake, if they control me again, will you stop me?" Jake looked away, then back at her. "If it ever comes to that, I'll save you first. If I can't, then yes." Z nodded. "Thank you." She closed her eyes and leaned back, and for the first time she whispered, "I trust you." Far away, on the enemy ship, the commander stood silent. "She escaped again," a soldier said. The commander turned, eyes glowing red. "No, she's remembering. That's worse." He pressed a button. A screen lit up with Jake's face. "Find the human. If she loves him, he's the key." The stars above Mars were quiet, but inside an old smuggler base under the surface, a storm was waking. Z was dreaming again. She stood in a dark room, cold and alone. Around her were mirrors, but they didn't show her reflection. Each one showed a different version of her, one holding a weapon, one standing with fire in her eyes, one kneeling before strange machines. Then came a voice. "You are not real. You are a design. You were built to obey." Z stepped back. Her hands trembled. The mirrors shattered. A figure appeared, tall, armored, glowing red eyes. The same commander who had chased her. He pointed at her chest. "You are not a girl. You are a tool, a weapon." Z screamed and woke up gasping. Jake rushed in. "Z!" She was sitting up, eyes wide, sweat on her face. Jake knelt beside her. "You okay?" Z looked at him, lost. "I saw them. I saw what I was made for." Jake stayed quiet. Z whispered, "They trained me to kill, to destroy enemy planets. I was one of many, but I ran. I was broken." Jake said gently, "No, you made a choice. You ran because you didn't want to be like them." Z looked away. "But I still have the power. What if I hurt someone?" Jake stood up and handed her a mirror. "You decide who you are, not them." Z looked into the mirror, and for the first time, she didn't look scared. She looked angry. Later, in the control room of the smuggler base, Jake spoke with an old contact, Reno, a Mars mechanic with half a cybernetic face and zero patience. "You brought a war machine into my hideout?" Reno shouted over a com-link. Jake replied, "She's not a machine. She's a person. And she needs answers," Reno groaned. "I can scan her neural core. But if she explodes, I'm blaming you." Jake glanced at Z. She nodded. "Do it." The scan began. Z lay on a table, wires connected to her temples. Jake watched nervously. Reno's machines whirred and clicked. Suddenly, images flashed on the screen. Jake gasped. There were files inside her. Thousands, blueprints, weapons data, battle plans. Z opened her eyes slowly. Her voice was distant. "I was made on Station Zeta Prime. My unit name was Z41. There were others. Z01 to Z100. Most were destroyed in early tests." Jake whispered. "Tests? They pushed us to kill. The ones who didn't obey were erased." Jake clenched his fists. "You survived," he said. "That means you were stronger than all of them." Z's voice softened. "I didn't want to kill, so I escaped. I crashed on Earth. The last thing I remember was running." Reno turned. "Off the machine. Well, that was cheerful. You've got a time bomb in your head, kid." Z asked. "Can it be removed?" Reno replied, "Not easily, but I can shut down the trigger signal. It'll take a day." Jake looked at Z. "We'll stay here until you're free." Z asked. "And then what?" Jake shrugged. "Then we live. Start fresh." She smiled faintly. "You make it sound easy." Jake chuckled. "It's not, but with you, might be worth it." That night, Z sat on the roof of the base. Mars. Twin moons floated above. Jake joined her. Z spoke quietly. "Do you think I'm human?" Jake replied, "You're not human. But you're more human than most people I've met." Z looked at him. "I feel things I wasn't built to feel. Fear, hope, even." She paused. Jake raised an eyebrow. "Even what?" Z blushed. "I don't know the word yet." Jake chuckled. "You'll find it." But deep down, Z knew what it was. She was starting to care for someone for him, but far away. The enemy commander watched from his ship. He turned to his second in command. "The girl is changing. She is becoming human," the officer said. "That cannot be allowed," the commander growled. "She must return, or be destroyed." The next morning, Reno worked on Z's neural chip. Sparks flew. The room smelled like burning wires. Jake paced the hall, nervous. Suddenly, alarm screamed. Unauthorized signal detected. "Incoming ship." Jake grabbed his blaster. "Not again." He ran to the roof. A ship was descending fast, much smaller than before. A single pod. Z appeared beside him. Her eyes serious. "I know that ship. It's not theirs." Jake frowned. "Not the enemy?" Z shook her head. "It's one of mine." The pod landed gently. Its door hissed open. A figure stepped out. She looked like Z, but older. Same pale skin, same silver eyes. She spoke in a calm, soft voice. "Hello, little sister." Asterisk, the woman looked like a mirror from the future. Same silver eyes. Same pale blue skin. But sharper, colder. Her armor gleamed like glass, and her voice was soft but dangerous. "Hello, little sister," she repeated. Z stood frozen. Jake stepped between them. "You're not taking her." The woman tilted her head. "And you are?" "I'm the one who saved her." She smiled, not kindly. "Then you delayed her destiny." Inside the Mars base, Reno scanned the newcomer's ship. "She's alone," he said through the com, "but her craft's got weapons that could melt this whole canyon." Z asked quietly, "Who are you?" "Really?" the woman replied. "Designation Z01, first of the Z series. The original, the prototype. I escaped too for a while." Jake narrowed his eyes. "Then why come back?" Z01 looked at Z. "Because you're changing. That makes you dangerous. Not to them, to yourself." Z shook her head. "You don't know me." Z01 stepped forward. "I am you. I've seen what happens when we feel too much. The humans will fear you, use you, then destroy you. Jake growled, "We're not all like that." Z01 ignored him. "You still have a choice, Z. Come with me. Let me take you to others like us hidden survivors. You don't have to be alone." Z looked torn. Then she asked, "And if I don't?" "Go?" Z01's silver eyes dimmed. "Then the enemy will come, and you will lead them straight to your human." Later that night, Z sat alone by the base's power core, watching the quiet hum of light. Jake came and sat beside her. "You believe her?" he asked. Z didn't answer at first. "She's like me, but colder, empty inside." Jake said, "You're not empty." "Not anymore." Z looked down. "She says I'm a risk to myself." "To you," Jake leaned forward. "You are a risk. But you're also the best thing that's ever happened to me." Z blinked. "Why?" Jake smiled. "Because you remind me that people can change, that broken things can still fly." Z reached out and gently took his hand, "Then help me fly." The next morning, the sky turned black. The enemy mothership had arrived. It didn't send warnings. It opened fire, blasts shook the Martian ground. The old base crumbled on one side. Jake and Z ran to the ship. Z01 stood at the door of her own craft. "It's now or never, Z. They want you. You go alone, they'll stop. But if you stay..." Z looked at Jake. Jake shook his head. "Don't listen to her. We fight." Z turned to Z01. "If you really care, then help us. Fight with us, one last time." Z01 stared at her for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Fine. Let's end this." They launched into the sky. Z and Jake's ship, Z01 in her sleek fighter. Together, they flew straight toward the mothership. Jake manned the weapons. "We hit the core. One shot in the right place brings it down." Z flew fast, dodging energy. Blasts. Z01 fired twin beams, cutting through enemy drones. But then Jake was hit. A shockwave threw him across the cabin. His side was burned. Blood on the glass. Z screamed. "Jake!" Jake gasped. "Keep flying. Don't stop." Z's hands trembled on the controls. Tears in her eyes. "I can't do this without you," she whispered. But then, deep inside her, something snapped. Not broken. Unlocked. Z's body began to glow with soft white energy. Her eyes turned bright silver. She let go of the controls. But the ship kept flying. Her mind was now part of it. Z01 saw the change. "You're activating your core?" Z's voice echoed, but she wasn't speaking. "Not a weapon, not a machine. I choose my path." She flew straight into the enemy mothership. Jake's ship slid through defenses like light through water. Inside, the main reactor pulsed glowing red. Z reached out with a soft whisper, "Sleep." And the whole core shut down. The ship began to fall. Z turned back, grabbed Jake, and ejected the escape pod. Z01 flew close, catching them mid-air with a tractor beam. The mothership exploded behind them. No fire, just light, and then silence. At the base, Jake lay in recovery. Z sat beside him, watching him breathe. Z01 stood near the exit. "You did what none of us could," she said. Z looked at her. "I made a choice." Z01 nodded. "Then it's time I made one too." She handed Z a small crystal. "This has the location of others like us, if you ever want to find your past." Z didn't take it. "I want to build something new." Z01 smiled faintly. "Then this is goodbye." She left. Hours later, Jake opened his eyes. Z smiled. "You came back." Jake winced. "Not easy to kill an old junkman." They laughed softly. Then Z leaned in close. "I think I found the word." Jake raised an eyebrow. "What word?" Z's cheeks turned a little purple, her version of a blush. "Love."